Moments ago, at the Old Chamber of the House of Representatives in Abuja, the House Committee on Petroleum Downstream held day 2 of their Petroleum Week opening ceremony. The event, chaired by Honorable Ikenga Ugochinyere, brought together key stakeholders, lawmakers, and industry experts to discuss ongoing reforms and investment opportunities in Nigeria's downstream petroleum sector. Let's take a look.
Beyond enactment, the spirit of implementation is key. The passage of good laws is only the beginning. The greater test lies in implementation, in the spirit of the law, not the letter of the law. Implementation therefore requires institutional integrity, strong, independent regulators, insulated cycles, administrative capacity, ensuring agencies are resourced professionally and adequately, and then stakeholder discipline, so that operators can comply with regulations and standards. The liberalized market must create a rule-based environment where compliance, transparency, and fairness prevail. Now, the downstream sector is the engine that actually powers liberalization. What is liberalization if the energy doesn't get to the consumer? It is the downstream sector that ensures that this energy reaches the consumer in the right quality, and within affordable limits. So, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, if the law provides the architecture, the downstream sector is the engine that drives the vehicle of energy liberalization. The downstream sector, as you all know, comprises the refining, storage, transportation, distribution, and marketing. A weak downstream sector means supply instability, product import dependency, and volatility in prices. But the strong and efficient downstream sector guarantees availability, competition, and consumer satisfaction. Let's consider the pillars of the downstream efficiency. Refining capacity. Domestic refining remains the cornerstone of energy security of any nation. A nation that cannot refine its crude is vulnerable to external shocks. We have been there as a country. Encouraging private refineries, modular plants, and regional cooperation is therefore essential. Infrastructure, pipelines, depots, jetties, and LPG bottling facilities form the arteries of the downstream sector. Investment in these assets reduces logistical costs and ensures steady product flow. Transparent pricing frameworks. Prices must reflect market realities while being monitored to prevent exploitation. Transparency in pricing builds public trust and sustains investor confidence. Digitalization and efficiency. We are in the age of AI, so technology-driven monitoring of supply chains from refinery gates to retail pump reduce leakages, improve safety, and enhances accountability. Human capacity. You cannot do all this without humans, even in the age of AI. The humans have to write the codes. Skilled manpower ensures compliance with standards, promotes innovation, and guarantees operational excellence. When these elements function efficiently within a transparent regulatory framework, the downstream sector becomes a true growth engine, supporting industries, transportation, and domestic prosperity. The synopsis of the law and efficiency, ladies and gentlemen. There's an organic relationship between law and efficiency. A good law without efficient execution breeds frustration. Efficiency without legal certainty breeds instability. The two must move in harmony. A good law to guide action and the efficient system to give the law life. In this synergy lies the success of any liberalized energy market. It is what differentiates countries where reforms deliver results from countries where reforms collapse, and the weight of bureaucracy and inconsistency become the order of the day. So, without having to bore you, but also conscious of the time, our vision for the future of our energy sector, which we all gathered here to contribute in the debate and dialogue to shape, must choose laws that attract, not repel, investors, must build institutions that regulate and not suffocate enterprise. We must foster competition that benefits the people, not cartels that exploit the people. Our downstream sector must evolve into a modern technology-driven marketplace, integrating refining, gas, and petrochemicals, while aligning with global trends in cleaner fuels and renewable integration. This is not a dream beyond our reach. With the right mix of policy, courage, which I believe this committee has demonstrated, private initiative, which is where companies like ITIL and the others come in, institutional integrity, which will be midwifed by the regulators, is well within our grasp. So in conclusion, therefore, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the energy sector is too strategic to be left to chance, and is too dynamic to be bound by outdated systems, including legislations and policies. We must therefore build a future anchored on good legislation that ensures fairness, transparency, investor protection, efficient downstream systems that deliver real value to the citizens, and partnership between government and industry, grounded in trust and shared vision. When law and efficiency move together, liberalization ceases to be an experiment. It becomes an achievement, fueling prosperity and national pride. So ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you all for your time and the privilege to be here to address you. So Mr. Chairman, once again, thank you for this rare privilege. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. The GMD of ITO Group, Mr. Victor Okoronko, we thank you. While he was presenting his paper, the Executive Vice President of NNPCL steps in. We welcome you, and of course, I would say you came at the right time, sir. The next paper is yours. At this point, Mr. Chairman, honorable members, we'll be taking a paper on downstream market potential in an evolving dynamic environment. And this will be presented by the Executive Vice President, Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, Nigerian National Company Limited. Prof did emphasize that yesterday. Downstream, Dr. Mumini Dangazao. Dr. Mumini Dangazao is a visionary leader with over 30 years of experience in the private sector, excelling in operational optimization across diverse industries. His expertise encompasses strategy development and corporate vision implementation, making him a recognized authority in his field. In addition to his professional endeavor, Dr. Mumini embodies an entrepreneurial spirit, successfully launching and managing various business ventures across industries such as oil and gas consultancy, security and communication, manufacturing, agriculture, aviation, and real estate. Additionally, apart from all his educational background, I want to just bridge this citation. He was awarded an honorary doctorate in business administration from the Swiss School of Business and Management in Geneva. His education is complemented by specialized training in management consulting, strategic leadership, and project management, widely regarded as a consummate professional. Dr. Mumini possesses a unique talent for identifying and devising innovative solutions to operational challenges. His expertise spans policy and business strategy, business development, project management, and supply chain optimization, which he leverages to success for organizations and their stakeholders. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming to the podium the Executive Vice President, Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, Downstream, Dr. Mumini Dangazao.
MC, you forgot that our guy was actually accompanied by the barrister Mrs. Morekeni Adewumi, NNPCL Chief Relation Officer. So, Madam, you're welcome.
Good morning, everyone. The problem with being as tall as I am is you're always fighting with the podium. So, if you can't see me, trust me, I'm here. My fight is always with the podium, nothing everywhere else. So please, next time we should have 1 or 2 steps. I know tall people like me are very hard to come across, but please, let's try to accommodate. Good morning, everyone. First and foremost, I would like to stand on existing protocol, but I would like to thank the Honorable Speaker of the House of Reps, my Honorable Chairman, Downstream, the Deputy Chairman, also Downstream, the Clerk of the Committee, and honorable members. I'll stop there and stand on a persisting protocol. One thing I'm not good at is protocol, so let me stop there before I get into trouble. Good morning. First and foremost, I'd like to apologize for my GCO's absence. Unfortunately, he had some schedules that didn't permit him to come, and I have the honor to come here and present this paper on the downstream in Nigeria today, as we see it from an NNPC perspective, and as a participating partner in the downstream growth for this country. And I can see my brothers are all here, my friends are all here. So it is a privilege to address this workshop and to talk about the future of the downstream oil and gas in Nigeria. But before we do that, we need to look at where are we and what are we doing? So today we're entering a new era in the downstream. We need to put a lot of things into, you'll always hear me talk about concept and context. So everything needs to be in a context, and you need to look at that because it depends on the time. We have a growing population, estimated over 220 million. And I think if you look at the estimates by 2050, we're estimated to be in excess of about 400 million people. That's a lot of people. And what does that mean for us in the downstream? Energy. an energy demand, a massive energy demand coming our way. I don't think we've actually quite understood how much of that we need to prepare for. And this is not about refineries or retail stations. This is about an energy mix, right? Where we're looking at gas, we're looking at CNG, we're looking at solar, we're looking at alternatives, biofuels, all that sort of stuff. So we've got a massive energy demand that we really need to start preparing for. And this preparation has come because of the youthfulness of our population, right? If you look at the average age today in our population, we're talking about 18, 20-year-olds, right? And we need to cater to them today. We can't afford to wait for them to come in and cater for themselves. So we have a really dynamic new business responsibility, I think. And I think it's important at this point to say thanks to Mr. President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu for his reforms, which has led to the liberalization of the petroleum sector. You know, I think it's important to understand that, and also to really thank the National Assembly for the passing of the PIA. These two things have made this sector very dynamic and will become a major employer of our youth in the next 20, 30, 40 years. So the deregulation of this, we're also seeing changes in terms of our refining capacities, things coming back into Nigeria. I was very fortunate, I was at the African Refiners Conference. I'm trying to trick this thing into moving. Let me do this. I'm sure you can see me now. Okay. I was very fortunate. I was at the African Refiners Roundtable Conference in Ghana 7 weeks ago. I'm not very good with time. 6-7 weeks ago. And in those conferences, what we saw was a forecast of a 70% energy demand between now and 2050. And guess who's leading that energy demand? Nigeria. Over 35% of that energy demand is actually solely driven by Nigeria. The demand for Nigeria. So when you look at the West African market, or you look at the African market as a whole, what you see is that Nigeria stands out above a lot of, in fact, almost every other country. I'll give you an example. South Africa has refining capacities of about 750,000 barrels a day. They still import 80% of their fuel. So when you look at that, you go to places like Congo, for example, 30,000. Maximum 10,000. We here today have a new structure that we're running thanks to the reforms. We're seeing new refineries, obviously the Dangote refinery you see, our own refineries that are, we're working on and will be in stream. So we will, in the next 5 years, actually have an excess capacity. And one of the things Nigeria needs to get ready for is that in the next 5 years, if we continue to drive this energy, if we continue to drive this liberalization, we will actually become exporters, right? But we need to get it right. So, and that's why this conference is I don't understand, I'm not sure you understand how critical this was. So thank you to the chairman and the committee for really putting this together. It gives us an opportunity to come to the next level, because we talk about the commercial level where we're sitting amongst ourselves and battling out what we need to do. But it's important to come to forums like this, come to these honorable homes and explain also what the potentials are, where the supports that we're going to need. We work together to ensure that we're delivering not only the presidential mandate, but what we as Nigerians need to deliver for Nigeria. Right? That's the critical part of this. Right? Someone can tell us what we need to do, but we need to tell ourselves what we need to deliver. And one thing we can be sure of is what we have in terms of energy demands. When we look at the African demand, for example, between now, like I said, and 2050, we expect that 70% of that energy demand will be driven by gasoline, and about 50% will be delivered by gas oil. Again, driven primarily by Nigeria, with a projected average annual growth of about 3.7 GDP percentage. And population increase between now and 2050, I don't know what we're doing, but about 2.4 billion in Africa between now and 2050. So I think, again, just to emphasize, what we are preparing for in terms of energy and why this dynamic market we need to prepare for it. Growing demand across Africa over the next decade, but it has to be sustainable. This is one of the major issues that we have, right? We come here, we talk about fantastic ideas, but we don't talk about the sustainability of these ideas, right? We want to do something. Someone wants to do a business. He sees this as an opportunity, but doesn't think about 5, 10, 15 years, 20 years down the line, right? That's the critical part of success. It's not about today. It's about what are you planning for the next 10 to 15 years that will actually should drive your decisions for today. Right? So those are the most critical parts of what we need to work on. There's also certain changes that we're going to see that will also help to drive the demands that we have. I'm not sure if you're aware, but there's an ECOWAS regulation that by 2030, all fuels must have a standard, right, produced within Africa, and we call that AFRI-6. For some of you who have asked, aware of, it's equivalent to Euro 5 standard, right? If we don't do that, we will not be able to actually produce our products, right? We will not be able to go to the markets. We will not be able to compete in the markets. And that's what we need to go. So all the things that we're doing today is preparation for our competition in the next 5 to 7 years. So that part of what we're doing as an NNPC is that upgrade that we're looking at, right? We need to upgrade today because 2030 is just a few years away. And that's part of what we're doing with our refineries as well. If you look at sort of regional trade flow projections across our region, in comparison to Nigeria, one of the things that is a major driver is the technology, right? We have to leverage, and I'm really happy to, when we talk about the average youth today, 18, 20 years old, because they're the guys who run this technology, right? They're the guys who are going to have to work and see how do we drive technology to make sure that we're delivering energy primarily at its cheapest cost, right? We need to go to that last mile, that person in the urban area, that we need to get energy to them as cheap as possible. So it's not about us sitting here and not worried and talking about how we're going to refine and sell and retail stations. It's about that one guy in the village. Because Africa, we're very unique. We all started in a village somewhere. We're not anyone else. We need to be truthful and honest to ourselves. Our parents, our grandparents, for those whose parents are still alive, grandparents are still alive, they will be in the village somewhere. I guarantee you, by show of hands here, majority here will have people in the village. So our concerns need to go to those people, not us, right? We will figure a way to work it out. How do they figure it out? How do you get energy to them cheap? How do you get solar? How do you get biofuels? How do you get LPG? How do you convince them to stop burning wood, right? And creating carbon emissions. And we need to do it by what we do today, the decisions that we take, the opportunities that we've been given today by the reforms of Mr. President, the drive that we have, the opportunity of technology that we have available to us. And one of the most important things is the availability of the youthfulness of our population. We need to tell these youths, we need to step out of this. This white beard is getting old, right? I'm hoping that you won't see it on TV for a long time, right? We need to see those younger people coming out. We need to see them. We need to create that opportunity in this sector. This energy sector is available to accommodate a huge percentage of this country. A huge percentage of the technology-driven, driving technology into this, right? We have those opportunities, and we need to jump on them. We've talked about, we're looking at things like shipping, for example, because we're talking about the entire downstream. If you remember the Cabotage Act about 10, 15 years ago, again, like I said, forgive me on time, I'm not very good at that. We need to leverage our strengths and our opportunities. We need to work together. One of the things I think I'm a big fan of, to be honest, is companies coming together and leveraging their strengths. We have this one thing where we all want to own our own. We own 100% of nothing, right? We somehow don't want to get together and own 10% of something. So this is the message we need to get across, is that we need to come together, as a country, as individuals, as a country, to drive the growth that we know we have. I'm very fortunate in the sense that I've traveled I've traveled all over the world for many years. I more or less started traveling when I was 7 years old. And I'm not telling you how old I am now, but it was a long time ago. And what I have seen, right, is that I have never seen anyone come to Nigeria that has not want to come back. Any foreigner, I've never seen it. I have never seen a foreigner come to Nigeria because they see opportunity every time somebody comes here. Why do we not see it? Why do we not see it? Right? And it's not our capacity, it's not our talent, because if you go outside of this country, almost every Nigerian working out of this country is talented. Right? You look at the doctors, you look at the nurses, you look at whoever it is, right? Whenever they're Nigerians, people pick them up very, very quickly. Because we don't complain, we work, we're hardworking, and outside, we're more honest than we are here. Truth. Hang me for it. It's the truth. Right? So we are a lot more honest outside than we're here. But this is where we end up. You go do what you want to do, you're going to come back home. At some point, you will. So we need to be sure that the opportunities that we're driving here and what we're talking about here today is leveraged on what we're planning to do for tomorrow. That's the most important thing, right? It's what we're planning to do for tomorrow. That's why we're doing what we're doing. We look at things like our domestic markets, what's driving our domestic markets. And the three main things that we look at in NNPC is the right pricing, quality and quantity. So quality is the right quality, the AFRI 5, AFRI 6 that we talked about. And 1 liter is 1 liter. Right? And the constant availability. Those three factors in the retail sector gives us a level of economic comfort. Because you want to wake up in the morning and know that if you get to the petrol station, you'll get fuel. Right? You want to be sure of that. And this is what we talk about when we travel. Oh, if I go to London and I want to get on the train, it's 10 o'clock, it will leave at 10 o'clock. We sit here and we boast about that. So we need to make sure that we find ourselves and we provide for ourselves that opportunity where we have that constant availability, we have the quality and the quantity, and more importantly, we have the right price. That's what we at NNPC are ensuring. And these are the changes that we're doing. Again, if you remember, I talked about concept and context. We are fully commercially driven in NNPC today, right? That's what we're looking at. All of you own NNPC. So if you call me 20 years down the line and say, what did you do? I have an obligation to tell you what we did. Because we're IPOing at some point, right? So this has to be done today. And for that, we as an NNPC have to make sure that we're at the forefront of driving all the necessary drivers required to make sure that the downstream is very functional. We talked about ECOWAS, our relationship with ECOWAS. We've talked about the African Continental Free Trade Areas, where we're trying to work with the West African community. West Africa community. We've talked about the one thing we didn't talk about yet is the federal government gas expansion program. If you remember, this is part of the President's presidential initiative on CNG. These are main drivers. So again, very fortunate, I traveled to Egypt recently, and I was fortunate enough to go to some of their assets, including 2 CNG plants and 4 CNG stations. This is the worrying part. They somehow have managed to roll out 1,000 CNG stations in 2 years. Almost every car in Egypt runs on CNG. 2 years, 1,000 CNG stations. But today, if I asked all of you, who do you compare yourselves to as Nigeria? I guarantee you Egypt will not be one of the countries you compare yourself to. I guarantee it. Would America, England, China, whatever it is. And it's fantastic to have those, right? But that's not what we would do. So the opportunity for us to develop this, the opportunity for us to create an economy that is driven not only by energy, but by our own determination to ensure that we provide for ourselves for today and our children for tomorrow and our grandchildren for the day after. I'm a big person on sustainability. My one watchword is sustainability. I don't do something if I can't sustain it. Okay? It's important to me. And I think it should be important to all of us, the sustainability. So we're looking at today supply partnerships. So what are we looking at as NNPC to help the downstream and be part of the downstream drive towards success for this country? And one of them is supply partnerships, infrastructure, co-investments. So in NNPC today, we are very, very open to conversations about investments within our framework. So whether it's infrastructure and investment, trade investments, trade opportunities, we're looking at all of that. And we need to make sure that our operational alliances work together. So we don't want to work with just anyone. We want to make sure that what we are doing aligns with what we believe to be that sustainable growth over the next 20 years. Right? You walk into NNPC today, we're not talking about tomorrow or next tomorrow. We're not interested. We know what it is. We've seen it. We're talking about 20 years from now, right? We're talking about 15 years. We're talking about times that we are gone. I'm not in NNPC for 10 years, I can assure you. You can beg me all you like, I'm not staying. Not because I don't want to or don't have a need, but we've got younger people who can do 10 times better than I can. Right? I always tell sort of my youth is that, look, what do I have advantage? I'm definitely not more intelligent than you. Absolutely not. The only thing I have is maybe 25, 30 years of experience that I can share with you and help you to create a better decision-making process. Right? That's all I offer. Nothing else. So I'm not trying to compete with the younger kids. Please, none of those guys should come and challenge me. I give up already. I will fail. But what I will tell you that I'll win is 25 to 30 years of successes and failures. You can't buy that in a book. You can't learn that anywhere, right? I have plenty of that. Lots of successes and lots of failures, right? Never ashamed to talk about them. Never want to restrict the conversation. I'm happy anybody stops me, okay, what are your successes and failures? I'll tell you straight away. Because failures are lessons and successes are achievements, right? Simple. So when we look at all of this, Mr. Chairman, we look at what are we doing today in the downstream? And what we're doing is what you have created for us today. And honestly, I can't thank you and your committee and this house for doing this, because it's, like I said, we sit in boardrooms with companies and not our people, right? This is more important to me than anything else, to be honest. When our GCO said he couldn't come, I said, hey, yeah, I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry you couldn't come. Inside, I was so happy. Seriously, I was really, really happy, And when I was coming, I think I said to Chairman, oh, when you're coming to the National Assembly, he said, no, I'm coming home. Because this is our home. This is our house, right? And the support that we get from the National Assembly, we need to give that support back. I could sit here and talk about downstream forever, but I don't want to bore you. I think I have already. But I'm not going to bore you anymore. Thank you very much. But please, what I will ask you for, before I leave, is we need your contribution. We need you guys to get involved in the future of Nigeria today for success for tomorrow. It's not about what we are sitting here doing. If you come here 10, 15, 20 years' time, this group will be different. But the ideology and the drive, the commitment, the support should be the same. It's what we create today, we need to continue. That consistency, that drive, that commitment, right? So I'm looking at that young guy with the white shirt, and he's been trying to dodge me, trying not to do eye contact, but I've been looking at him since, The truth of the matter is, you guys are the future of tomorrow. But the benefit you have, you're present today, right? And you need to be present today. You need to see what this is about. You need to understand and question us. What are you doing with my future? Right? We are in an environment today where you have that right to question. Stop me anywhere you see me. Boss, what are you doing with my future? Bro, what are you doing with my future? Ask me. I have an obligation to tell you. And I think that's what we're doing here today. So on behalf of my GCO, on behalf of all of our team, on behalf of NNPC, we want to thank the chairman, the downstream committee, for this invitation, for this opportunity. My brothers that are here in the downstream, and those in the upstream, but we don't like the upstream people, we prefer the downstream people. We'd like to thank them as well. And more importantly, we'd like to thank you guys, for all of you, for taking the time to come out here and be part of this. Mr. Chairman, thank you very much.
Hello, sir. Please, sir, before you leave, I've been asked by the chairman to thank you for a wonderful lecture. And more importantly, the reforms you are introducing to run our refineries in a more sustainable way. And to the GCO who sent you, I think that decision was actually apt, to send a very tall man to discuss things that are down. My colleague has one question for you.
Thank you so much, EVP Abdulmumini Dangazao. Your appointment as EVP downstream, your presentation today confirm to us beyond any reasonable doubt is a square peg in a square hole. Amejaha is my name. I represent Chibok, Dambua, and Goza Federal Constituency. I'm from Borno State. By population prediction, United Nations Population Fund and other related agencies are on the same page that by 2050, Nigeria's population is going to be 440 million people, and 75% of these people in Nigeria will be living in northern part of the country because of some reasons best known to them. And you will agree with me, northern part of the country as it is today is characterized by porous border, poverty, unemployment, illiteracy, insecurity, and desertification and other related environmental challenges. What plan do you have on ground, bearing in mind focusing the future for the provision of energy and energy sufficiency in Nigeria in the next 25 years? As NNPCL, what do you have on one hand, and what do the industry in general have for this region to accommodate perfectly the 75% of the population of 440 million on one hand, and to provide energy requirement of such population living in the northern part of the country? Thank you so much.
Thank you, my honorable member. I'm not going to answer the questions on security and all the other things. That's above my pay grade. But what I will answer is, and thank you for the question, how do we, it's not about whether we cater for the North, it's how do we cater for Nigeria as a whole, right? That's, for me, the most important thing. When we start to regionalize our approach, then we miss something, right? So what we at NNPC are doing is we're looking at how we do energy distribution throughout the whole country. Not only in distribution, but in creating the potential of creating energy within those regions. Right? One of the things we don't have, for example, is that how do you create energy in the north? How do you take advantage of some of the energy opportunities in the north? It's not that difficult, actually. If we look at AKK gas pipeline. AKK gas pipeline is the feedstock for petrochemical. It's the feedstock for fertilizers, right? So if you create that economic opportunity, in itself, it creates energy security, right? We look at opportunities around, if you remember Kurbani, I can never pronounce the name, the Kurbani wells, other potential drilling opportunities that we're looking at. But for me, it's really about the whole of this country. We're leveraging on, we have over 5,300 kilometers of pipelines in this country as NNPC. I'm not even talking about some of the other private sector ones. We have 23 depots throughout the whole country. The question is that, are they workable today? 5,000 kilometers of pipeline that were buried 50 years ago. So in case some of you don't know, the first refinery was built in 1965, Port Harcourt. So we've got aging infrastructure, right? And if you remember, I talked about concept. So the concept at that time was just to pump through pipelines. Today, I'm sorry to say that if you attempted to pump crude from Warri to Kaduna, I can guarantee you half of it will not reach there. That's the sad truth. And just so you guys understand, it's 650 kilometers of pipeline from Warri to Kaduna, which equates to, because of the size of the pipes that were there, it equates to about 1 billion barrels just to fill the line. That's before we're able to push crude to Kaduna. We have to fill the line, right? 1 million barrels of crude is required for that. So, if we attempted that, I don't think I need to say any more, right? So those are the issues. And then when you look at the cost of the energy security to secure those lines, you start to ask yourselves, what are the options, right? And that's why we table and say what we are doing today is that we're now looking at the concept. What is our concept in NNPC today? Is commercialization. We're a limited liability company today. We have responsibilities to shareholders, 200 plus million shareholders, 400 million by 2050, right? We need to make logical decisions today. We need to go away from sentiment. We cannot continue to live on sentiment. We cannot continue to say, oh, because we have the pipelines, we have to use them. Are they logical? Can you afford the security cost to manage them, right? You can't. So I hope that answers her.
Mr. Chairman, honorable colleagues, stakeholders of the industry, good morning. Mr. Chairman, thank you for organizing this very, very important event. EBP, I shouldn't have elaborated because I know you are legendary in the industry. But I will ask some pertinent questions, particularly regarding the infrastructure you talked about of the downstream. We could remember in the 70s, 80s, and even early 90s, the military administration has done justice to the downstream subsector by putting the refineries, the pipelines, the depots. And at that time, the population of Nigeria is less than maybe 20 to 30 million. The census of 1991, I think the population of Nigeria is less than 80 million. But as now we are growing, with all the education, with all the knowledge, the experience, we fail to sustain this infrastructure rather than even expanding the infrastructure. For me, as long as we did not expand this or fix this, the utility industry could not be, or the downstream could not be worked as we expected. The question is, how did we end, or how did you find ourselves in this mess? We can remember that all these depots, every state, when we have the 19th state, has a depot and an additional infrastructure, including the botanization. But today, there is a total mess. When you talked about pumping the crude, pumping the products, in fact, apart from the decay of the pipelines and the depots, there is even a catastrophic position now that all these pipelines, some places are even being vandalized or removed. As a nation, why did we end up here? One. Then I can also, heard you talked about the regulation, and maybe I can also ask a question about this regulation. The regulatory environment on itself, I think, is not efficiently enough to have efficient downstream sector. Why do I say so? We have to find out whether these regulations are working either either in the interest of general public or in the interest of the elites or the operators or the political space, or for the regulators themselves. What I mean by that is regulatory capture. Whether we like it or not, the regulation has been captured in place. This capture comes from the poor areas I have mentioned, be it the elite, be it the operators, be it the legislature, be it the regulators themselves. How do we unbundle this problem of capture? If these two things are not in place, particularly the infrastructure that will go with the population growth, as well as unbundling the capture, we will not have an efficient downstream subsector. So I'm sorry, but I know you are legendary. You can comment on this. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, my honorable chairman. My honorable member, sorry. Chairman, inshallah, one day. So anyways, right, so...
sorry, I am the chairman of Ethics and Privileges. Thank you.
So I wasn't wrong, sir. Somehow God is always looking over me. Right, okay. So a lot of questions that you asked, or rather a lot of dimensions to the questions that you asked. How do we capture? That responsibility is all of us here. I can't tell you why somebody is going to break our pipelines and stealing our pipes. I can't answer to that. I don't know. That's a question that you need to maybe ask yourself. We have our GCFO who always talks about the man in the mirror. And he makes this comment every single day that we need to look at ourselves, right? And see, are we contributors to the problem? Or are we trying to solve the problem? Are we part of the people who are trying to solve the problem? This conversation is part of the solution, not the problem. But what you've talked about involves every single one of us here and those beyond. That's where the solution for the capture comes in. Talking about aging infrastructure, I talked about concept. That design was done 40 years ago, 50 years ago for the environment at that time. Today, you have a far much more dynamic environment. You have a much more upward mobile youth, right? We've been through a lot in Nigeria. We really have. I think we need to reflect on that. But we also need to talk about concept. One of the problems I have in the downstream is sentiment. I'm a businessman, right? I'm commercially driven. I don't look at an asset and think, oh, I love this asset, I want to keep it. If I drive in a car and you see the car, you want to buy it, let's negotiate. Call me an Uber, I'll take an Uber home. That's my concept. And that needs to be our concept. We need to walk away from sentiment. So these infrastructure, a lot of them have been kept out of sentiment. 23 depots, 5,000 kilometers of pipeline. What does that mean to you? It means that as NNPC, we're spending money every day looking after pipelines for you that are 50 years old, that are probably not even worth looking after. But if I don't do it, you come and start questioning me and telling me I've stolen this, I've done this, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. Sorry, you've got an EVP that talks freely. So if you don't want me to talk freely, don't invite me again.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Doctor. We have something for you, please.
Thank you very much, sir. Doctor, before you take your seat, sir, I would say that you are truly a consummate professional, especially in the downstream sector. Yesterday, this committee made presentation to some agencies and organizations. Today, we want to do the same to NNPCL. Before I invite Mr. Chairman to make the presentation, let me read a short citation. The House of Representatives Committee on Petroleum Resources Downstream proudly recognizes the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited for its remarkable transformation from loss-making entity into a profitable, transparent, and globally competitive national energy company. This recognition is a testament to NNPCL's renewed corporate vision, sound management, and steadfast commitment to operational efficiency, accountability, and value creation within Nigeria's petroleum industry. Under its structure as a limited liability company, NNPCL has demonstrated commendable strides, recording consistent profitability, enhancing domestic refining capacity initiatives, expanding energy infrastructure, deepening investment in gas development, and strengthening Nigeria's position as a regional energy hub. The committee acknowledges these achievements as clear evidence of the organization's resilience, reform-driven leadership, and strategic alignment with the objective of the Petroleum Industry Act, PIA. Through innovation, prudent governance, and a focus on national interest, NNPCL continues to play a pivotal role in the stability and growth of the downstream petroleum sector. The House Committee on Petroleum Resources Downstream, therefore, confers this recognition of excellence upon the Nigeria National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, in appreciation of its distinguished service, outstanding transformation, and enduring contribution to Nigeria's energy future. On this note, we congratulate you, NNPCL. Congratulations once again. We'll take other recognitions and presentations later for us to save time. Thank you very much. On this note, Mr. Chairman, if you permit me, we'll move straight to the first plenary session for today, which of course is the second for this event. And of course, we'll be listening to a lawyer, a very good one. She's an SAN, Chinyere Monema. She'll be talking to us on dispute resolution mechanism in the petroleum sector, strengthening mediation, arbitration, and legislative oversight. This session will explore the urgent need to institutionalize robust, transparent, and impartial dispute resolution framework that can preempt industrial disruptions and foster investors' confidence. And of course, we have the second panel for this very important event, which of course will be moderated by Honorable Prince, the Prince from Benin. Is this still here? Yes. Prince Billy Osawaru will moderate this session. We'll be joined by Honorable Ahmed Jah Umar from Chibok, Borno State. And of course, representing NMDPRA, we'll have Dr. Charles Nwachuku, Dr. Billy Gills Ari, Petron President, Ben Corey, Nogasa President, Mrs. Chinyere herself will also be part of it, and of course, the representative of Dangote and the representative of DAPMAN. Thank you very much. May I, at this point, before I hand over the microphone to the SAN, may I invite Honorable Billy Osawaru, who of course is the moderator for this session, to make a brief comment.
Yeah, thank you very much, moderator. Mr. Chairman, my honorable colleagues, I'm Honorable Chief Dr. Billy Famous Adesuwa Sawaru. I represent the good people of Orion the Federal Constituency of Edo State, a very proud Benin chief. This morning, we are looking at this very session, which we think and believe that there is no better time to actually have this topic on the table. Considering what is going on right now between the players in the oil sectors and the Dangote group. So I'm sure by the time we throw more lights on these, we'll find some solutions, on how to actually take care of things like this now and in the nearest future. This topic is very interesting, dispute resolution mechanisms in the petroleum sector, strengthening mediation, arbitration, and legislative oversight. I'm sure this is more of a novelty because this is the first time we are having the private sector coming into the refinery business or petroleum resources industry. It has always been the government. So that is why now, when it comes to disruption in this process, it's something we must take very seriously. Because on the part of the owners of the refineries, we understand the huge investment that has come into building a refinery. And we know the investor has to recoup. They don't only have local investors, they have other international investors who are already part of the industry and want to be. It becomes a very, very sensitive industry that anytime we have a disruption, it affects the shares of that company. But on the other hand, we want to look at...
Still watching Arise News, that was day 2 of the House of Representatives Committee on Petroleum Downstream Week opening ceremony, where legislators and industry stakeholders examine new strategies for strengthening Nigeria's downstream oil and gas sector.